Assalamualaikum and good day. This presentation is about solidification of the weld metal. There are three distinct zones that can be identified in a typical weld joint. Okay, the first zone is called the base metal, unaffected base metal. This means that however the base metal receive heat due to the welding process, the heat, the temperature that exposed to the base metal is not critical enough to change the properties of the base metal. That's why it is called unaffected base plate. The second zone would be heat affected zone. At this zone, the material receive sufficient heat which is critically change the metallurgical and mechanical properties of the material. However, it is not sufficient enough to melt the material, meaning it happens below the melting point of the material. The third important interface is called fusion line or weld interface. At this point, is the boundary where the material starts to melt. And the final zone is called fusion zone. Okay, at this zone, the material has been heated way above the melting point of the material, thereby it is completely in the liquid form after the heat is moving away from that particular point, the material will start to solidify. So, the metallurgical and properties of the number 2 and number 4 zones depend strongly on the type of metal joints, the particular joints process, the filler metal if it is used, and the welding process variables such as the power, the speed, and whatnot. Autogeneous weld vs or versus weld with filler materials. A joint produced without a filler metal, which is called autogeneous, and its weld zone is composed of resolidified base metal, meaning the fusion zone only consisting the liquid form of base plate. So if you are using the similar material for the base plate, then only that particular material from base plate 1 and base plate 2 mix together. Okay, melt and then resolidify. If you use dissimilar material for the base metal, then at the fusion zone, it will consist the resolidified of base metal from material 1 and material 2. However, a joint made with a filler metal has a central zone which is called the weld metal. Okay, you can see from the picture. This is the joint with a filler material, meaning additional materials. Okay, this zone is called weld metal or sometimes just called weldment. It is composed of a mixture from the base material and the filler material. Okay, during welding process, when that particular base plate is exposed to heat, okay, so when we start the welding, the heat being subjected to the base material will absorb the heat. After the application of heat and the introduction of filler material, if any, into the weld zone, the weld joint is allowed to cool to ambient temperature. So when the torch is moving away from that particular point, that area will start to cool. So the solidification process is similar to that in casting and begins with the formation of dendritic structure. Okay, so as you can see from the image, this is the dendritic structure. So at the fusion line, which is the point which is where the material will start to become solid in the form of nuclei. Okay, so it will start with a small spot of solid and then grow slowly into a dendritic structure which has primary bark. If we were to compare it with a tree, primary bark, and then it which branches out into secondary arm. Okay, so the grains are relatively long and form parallel to the heat flow. So when the heat flow moving away, so the dendrites will grow according to the heat flow. Okay. Because metals are much better heat conductors than the surrounding airs, the grain lie parallel to the plane of the two components being welded. In contrast, the grains in a shallow weld are perpendicular to their interface with the base metal. Grain growth is parallel to the direction of heat flow. So as you can see from this image, the grain is actually growing according or parallel to the direction of the heat flow. Okay, if you look in the picture B, you can see the dendritic is actually moving upwards, and if we to take at the other cross section from the top, you can see it is actually moving parallel to the direction of the heat flow. Grain structure and grain size depends on specific metal alloy, the particular welding process employed, and the type of filler material. So the grains that form after the welding process is actually depending on these factors. Okay, because it began in a molten state, okay, at the liquid state, the weld metal basically has a cast structure. So although this process is a welding process, the dendritic structure normally call it as cast structure because it also happens in the casting process. And because it cools slowly depending what is the solidification rate, okay, it has coarse grain. Okay, consequently, this structure generally has low strength, toughness, and ductility. However, the proper selection of filler metal composition of heat treatments following welding can improve the mechanical properties of the joint. So, when the dendrite grows, a group of dendrites that grow in the same direction will form one grain. The other set of dendrites even change slightly in terms of angle or other properties, it will become another group of dendrites. That's why if you look at the microstructure in a bigger scale, you can see the columnar grains. So in every grains is actually consisting a group of dendrites that has the same properties. If the properties change, especially the angle change a little bit, it will form another group of grains. Okay. So the grain structure will move according to the solidification rate. So if the solidification rate is lower, the dendrites will have more time to grow into a bigger structure. So if it is grow into a bigger structure, the material will tend to be more ductile, less hardness, less strength as compared to those with which has smaller grains, smaller dendrites and forming smaller grains. So smaller grains showing that the material tends to be higher strength and higher hardness. That's why measuring the grain size and measuring the dendrites arm spacing will give an idea about the properties of the final weldment. The resulting structure also depends on particular alloy, its composition and thermal cycling to which the joint is subjected. For example, cooling rates may be controlled and reduced by preheating the general weld area prior to welding. Preheating is important, particularly for metals having high thermal conductivity, such as aluminium and copper. Without preheating, the heat produced during welding dissipates rapidly through the rest of the parts being joined. So if you start the weldment from ambient temperature or room temperature. You start the welding. So because the rest of the base plate is cold, then the heat will rapidly dissipate away or being conducted away because the other part is cold. As compared to if you preheat the base plate, then it will start at certain temperature, or it is called as preheating temperature. So the solidification rate will be slower and it will give sufficient time for the dendrites to grow into certain size and properties which is required for the weldment. So in the fusion zone, the structure is in the form of dendrites. So the size of these dendrites will actually give an idea about the properties of the weldment. Thereby, it is also thereby one way to differentiate the properties of the weldment from one weldment to another weldment is by measuring the dendrite arm spacing. So the dendrite is in the form of tree-like shape. Okay, so the dendrite arm spacing is called the distance between the dendrites. Normally, we measure the secondary dendrite arm spacing. So this main bulk is called primary dendrites. Okay, so the space between one primary to another primary, it is called primary dendrite arm spacing. Okay, normally we measure, it can also be measured, it also will determine the mechanical properties of the weldment, but the most common way to measure is by measuring the secondary dendrite arm spacing. Relationship between secondary dendrite arm spacing and the mechanical properties of weld metal. So the size of the dendrite arm spacing has relationship to the mechanical properties such as strength and hardness. Okay, normally strength. Okay, the secondary dendrite arm spacing of the alloy decrease with increasing cooling rate, and their hardness and tensile strength will also be increased actually. So the smaller the secondary dendrite arm spacing, showing that the dendrite is smaller, thereby normally it relates to the higher hardness and higher strength of the weldment. So the easiest way to measure the dendrite arm spacing is by drawing a line, okay, passing through a few dendrites. For example, in this picture, passing through 9 dendrites. So measure that length, okay, using ruler. If you are using microscope, there will be a ruler to measure the distance from one dendrite, secondary dendrite arm to the whatever numbers of the dendrite included in that length, and then divided by the numbers of dendrite arms. That the result will give you the secondary dendrite arm spacing. Another way to determine the properties, the difference properties between one weldment to another weldment is by measuring the grain size. Okay, if you can see the grain size clearly. Okay, so one of the simplest technique to estimate an average grain size is the intercept technique. A random straight line is drawn through the micrograph. So if you have this micrograph, draw a straight line. Okay, the number of grain boundaries intersecting the lines are counted. Okay, measure the grain boundaries that intersecting with that line which you draw. The average grain size is found by dividing the number of the intersections by the actual line area. So that will basically give you the diameter of dendrite, average diameter of the dendrite. Definitely the dendrite size is difference, okay, in one particular area, but by this measurement it will give you the average diameter. Or you can also measure by area. Okay, draw a circle or square area, okay, and measure the area, which you can measure the area of circle, and divided by number of grains which is included in this area. So you will get an average of every grain area. Okay. So the bigger the area, it's normally relate to the less hardness and less strength of the weldment. The smaller the area, normally give an idea about more higher hardness and more strength of the weldment. So the grain size decrease with increasing cooling rate, and their hardness and tensile strength will also increase. Heat affected zone. The heat affected zone is within the base metal itself. Metal has experienced temperatures below melting point but high enough to cause microstructural changes in the solid metal. Okay, chemical composition same as the base metal. Does not change anything because it's still the same base metal, but this region has been heat treated so that its properties and structure has been altered. Effect on mechanical properties in heat affected zone is usually negative. Normally heat affected zone would be the region where the material starts to fail. It is here that the welding failures often occur. The properties and microstructure of the heat affected zone depends normally on the rate of heat input and cooling and the temperature to which this temperature was raised. Okay, so why heat affected zone normally become the negative area or negative point for the mechanical properties, and where welding failures normally occur, because when the heat affected zone receive the heat, okay, it will dissolve most of the phases which initially appear in the unaffected base plate. So if you look under the microscope, you can see most of the grain boundaries has dissolved into the matrix. In some cases, almost all grain boundaries dissolve into the matrix. If you look under the microscope, you can see gray clear area, like a clean area without any faces. So if the material starts to crack at this point, okay, there will be no grain boundaries to stop that crack. So the crack propagation will just occur without anything stopping it. That's why normally failures occur at the heat affected zone. As compared to in the fusion zone, there are dendrites and also grain boundaries. So if the crack start to happen, it will be stopped by the dendritic structure and also by the grain boundaries. Okay, and in the heat affected zone, the strength and the hardness of the heat affected zone depend partly on how the original strength and hardness of the base metal was developed prior to the welding process. The heat applied during welding recrystallize the elongated grains of the cold work base metal. Okay, so normally the base material that we get from supplier, that particular material has undergo forming process like rolling and forging. That's why if you look under the microscope, we can actually, the rod structure is slightly elongated, normally due to rolling process. So the grains get elongated. Okay, so grains that are away from the weld metal we recrystallize into fine and aqueous grains. Grains close to the weld metal have been subjected to elevated temperature for a longer time. So these grains will grow in size and this region will be softer and have lower strength. Such a joint will be weakest at its heat affected zone. So at the heat affected zone, the material receive sufficient heat or critical temperature that change the properties of the heat affected zone. Okay, so those are closer to the unaffected base plate normally appears in a smaller grain size, because at this point the heat is quickly being conducted away to the base metal, dissipates quickly, thereby the grains that form is smaller because it does not have enough time to grow into a bigger structure. As compared to those near to the weld metal, due to the high heat from the fusion zone, this region will solidify slower. So it has sufficient time to grow into a bigger structure. Okay, but it does not happen all the time. In some cases, it don't have even enough time to form any grains. Thereby, you see only a grey big area without any grain boundaries. So this is where the weakest points of the weldment, normally in the heat affected zone. So these are some figures which shows the heat affected zone. So in this picture, the dark grey area is the heat affected zone. The weldment is very easy to distinguish because it is in the form of dendritic structure. And the cold work unaffected base plate normally also easy to see in the microscope because it is in the rod structure. Okay, so this is fusion zone, where the melting zone or fusion zone. So this would be the heat affected zone. You can see that some has sufficient time to grow into a large grain size. However, some do not have sufficient time to grow any phase. Thereby, most of the grain boundaries from the cold work based metal has been dissolved into the matrix and do not have sufficient time to grow into a new grain or recrystallize into the new grain. So this is the weld metal, easy to distinguish because the structure is in the form of dendrites, and this would be the heat affected zone. Okay. So you can see from this image dissolution of the grain boundaries. So from the base metal you can see distinct grain and grain boundaries. However, when it comes to the heat affected zone, okay, most of the grain boundaries had dissolved into the matrix. Unaffected base plate, the portions of the base metal that are far enough away from the heat source do not undergo any microstructural changes during welding because of the far lower temperature to which they are subjected. So normally they are in the form of rod structure. Rod structure is formed after any forming process. Okay, normally after forging or rolling process of the base plate. So you will see very distinct grain boundaries and it is in the form of rod structure. So that's all to show the solidification that happened during the welding process, how the heat from the welding process actually change the metallurgical properties and mechanical properties at the three different zones of the weldment. Okay, the fusion zone, definitely the material will melt completely and then re-solidify in the form of columnar grains with dendritic structure. In the heat affected zone, the material receives sufficient heat to critically change its metallurgical and mechanical properties, however, do not melt. Okay, the grain boundaries, some of the grain boundaries will dissolve into the matrix, some will recrystallize back into a smaller or into a larger grain depending on the solidification rate. Heat affected zone normally is the weakest point of the weldment. Okay? And the final zone would be the unaffected base plate. Basically, at this area, the material, although receive heat, it is very low heat, okay, below the critical point for the material to change its properties and to change in terms of metallurgical structure. Okay, so that will cover the solidification of weld metal. Thank you.